And after that very dramatic music and introduction to lots of authors here on Amazon Live, we are going to have Haley Kilgore here talking about her book. There it is. And we're going to be talking about that in just a moment. I did want to highlight a couple of things in the carousel. And I recently upgraded my microphone. I used to use, as some of you know that have watched, I was using the MXL 990 microphone, and I love that one. It is a great microphone, but jumped over to the Shure platform and have been using that along with a cloud lifter. Have both of those highlighted in the carousel, and of course, you to translate the analog signal from the microphone into something the computer reads. You need to have a converter, and I use both the Focusrite Scarlett. I have but also have been using the Ceramonic Smart Rig, and that's actually what I'm using right now. And these are all fun things to do to be able to have the right tools for broadcasting. And I'll tell you what, I have been broadcasting all day long. It's here on the West Coast. We're coming up on, well, we just passed 3 o'clock. And the first show started at 7 a.m. So we've been busy. And sometimes I will use these, my AKG K240 headphones. These are really good, but I like the in-ear monitors, and I've got those highlighted there as well. These we use not only here in the studio, but also on stage playing music. So there's some of the instruments, and of course, I do use my uh, iPad Pro to manage the show, and to keep it upright, I use a Gibson holder. In fact, back in the day, I used to run the company that made these things, these wire holders. If you've been into any bookstores, uh, places that sell plates, you will likely have seen a Gibson holder, and you can tell the real ones because the little rivets here on the side have AGH custom rivets for Gibson holders. And so I just wanted to tell you about some of the things that we've been using here in the home studio to broadcast out. I love the Shure microphone. I love the AKG headphones and the Focusrite and the Ceramonic Smart Rig. Those are all great tools. I hope that you're having fun setting up your tools or setting up your studio. But now we have got Haley's book highlighted in the carousel. And so let's bring Haley up and welcome you to Amazon Live.
Yes, I'm excited to be here.
So, um, tell us a little bit about where you're from and how you decided to start writing a book, because I know that you are not an author full time yet, that you have some other work that you're involved in and is very demanding. But also, let's talk about how you decided to write a book.
Yeah, so by trade, I'm a marine biologist. I currently work for Florida International University as a field tech. And basically, what that is I go out into the field and I fill water bottles with seawater and then I send them somewhere else. That is that is my job. Um, I've also done other weird, funky things like being a Navy Marine mammal trainer or working in the Shark Research and Conservation Lab up at UM, which more or less you get to jump on sharks for research and it's all permitted. I'm not just doing this because I'm crazy. Well, I mean, I am crazy. But yeah, I've done a lot of weird things. But writing kind of came about because I've always loved books.
Mhm.
And so I was, even as a kid, I was a very avid reader. And I had trouble falling asleep at night. So my aunt just said, well, just think of something. And so my like 7-year-old self was just like, cool, I'll just put myself in the books that are being read to me every night. And then it went from there. And then so in my at the end of my freshman year of college, so like 2014, I was like, this idea I've had for like 10 years, I'm gonna write it. So I spent the summer physically handwriting the first draft,
Oh,
and
wow.
then 6 years later,
Okay.
it got published.
That's amazing. So few people actually write by hand right now. They're using all kinds of, either dictation software or, uh, laptops and desktops. How did you do you process by writing? Because I actually process a lot by physically writing.
So it was a bit of a fluke. I now write on my computer, and I think just at the time, it felt better to physically handwrite it. Also
Mhm,
because I couldn't second guess myself, go back and change it. I had to keep moving forward. And I had a friend who I would write roughly a chapter every night, and I would, take photos of the pages and text them to her.
mhm,
So she was constantly like, "Yes, I need more. I need more." And so just for me, it worked better just handwriting the first one. But
mhm.
the rest of them have all been typed up. So
Yeah.
I think it was
Well, and
just
obviously, then you had to transcribe it, right? I mean, you had to type it up after,
yes,
or
that
you're I'm
was
getting a
the
little
process.
I'm getting a look there. So tell me about that process.
So the very first handwritten draft and what got published, I like to argue are not the same thing. They are
Mm,
drastically different from each other. Like the first one had only four perspectives. What got published had 11. Um, the storylines changed quite a bit. So
mhm.
yeah, it was getting from the handwritten version to what was published was crazy, but it was fun.
Yeah. Mhm. And so I love that you started really kind of dreaming about this as a child, is putting yourself into into the stories, and you ended up writing a fantasy story. Is that, your bent? Was that just your first tell me about your genre.
So fantasy is definitely what I read like 90% of the time, but
Mhm,
I do read a lot of other things. Like I love historical fiction and memoirs. I'm not big on sci-fi, but that's like my one like thing. And
uh,
so, of course, fantasy had to be my first, but
mhm,
I do have Greek mythology retellings, fairy tale retellings, action adventures, historical fiction things that I've got. They're all bouncing around up here. A couple of them have started to make it onto paper.
mhm.
So yeah, I'll definitely not be sticking with fantasy, but fantasy will always be my first love.
Yeah. I love it, and, part of and this is your first book, and part of what I really like about the author interviews that we do here on Amazon Live, and I'll just remind people that if you are watching anywhere other than on Amazon, cruise on over to Amazon and, .com/live and, with Haley and her book here. It's, pretty exciting time because if you want to write a book, this you can do it. You don't have to find an author, or find an agent, or a publisher, or all those things. You can just move ahead forward by getting a pad of paper and starting to write. Um, ha- what was the moment when you decided you were going to sit down and handwrite out this book with the intent that it was going to be published?
I, you know, again, when I started coming up with this idea, I always wanted so Christopher Pliny is literally what inspired this book. Knowing he published Aragon or wrote Aragon when he was 15, I'm like, I want to do that. I want to be a famous author. And I can't say again, I tried as a kid to write the book, and I got maybe like 4 or 5 chapters in before I gave up. And every couple of years, I would try again.
Mhm.
And just something again in college just struck me and said, "Do it, try again," and I pushed through, and I think it was just the right time. I matured enough to where I could actually tackle that kind of longevity of a project and see it to fruition, and then say, because also I've been if I can speak, ruminating on it for years, so I had a better idea of plot and things like that, and,
Mhm.
I think the maturity is just really what kind of made me do it. Not that any 18-year-old is mature, but I was more mature than I was at, like, 10.
Sure. And with the characters, one of the tricks that I've learned from an author is he creates a character map. And so kind of lists out the main characters and then a little backstory about them, but mainly it's their relationships to the other characters. What about yourself?
I can't
How
say
do you
I've
keep
ever
track? How do you keep track?
So, again, you have to remember I've known these characters for 10 years, so they're very ingrained. I know them very, very well, and that's just, again, because 'cause
Mhm.
I've been with them for so long. Um, but characters I'm not so familiar with, what I do is I generally keep an Excel spreadsheet that has literally anything I could ever need to know about a book I'm writing, between the chapters, the word length, what day it is, what time of day it is, a short summary, and then it has an entire separate like sheet for like the characters. What are their physical descriptions? What do they like? What do they not like? Things like that. Um, and that's how I kind of keep track of everything. But it also comes down to a fact of I even if I don't know a character well, I still know them, and so I'm really, really good at remembering them.
Mhm.
Like I've got an almost near eidetic memory for book plots for about a year after I read them. And so because I'm
Wow.
constantly working with my own book and I'm reading them like 7, 8, 9 times before they even go
Mhm.
to an editor or publisher, I'm really, really familiar with these characters, even if they
I
only
love
show
it.
up for a sentence. So it's just, I've got one of those weird memories for this kind of thing.
Oh, that's great, I love it. I knew I would like this book, but when I first opened it up and there's a map.
Yes, that's
So
the best.
yeah, go ahead. Let's hear about this because you
Um,
created a world.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I will say that during the first draft, I had no map. I had no idea what anything looked like. And then I drew an absolutely terrible map, but it was enough. And it kind of
Mhm,
got me through. And then when I published with Rock Hill, they created this just lovely map. And I cannot express just how over the moon I am with it. Like,
mhm. Yeah, I just looked at it, and of course, it just reminds me of Tolkien, when you open up Lord of the Rings and there's the map and everything, and then as you're reading the story, you come back and start looking at your map and see, "Oh, okay, here's the mount oh, the volcanoes, all these different, aspects," right? And it makes it fun.
I mean, yeah, I love maps too, just because I do think they really help readers visualize the world. Because, of
Mhm,
course, an author knows what everything looks like, but a reader doesn't have the ability of sharing a mind with the author. So a map helps, and it helps say, okay, I know where this thing they're talking about is. I understand distances and, things like that. So I love maps, but also I just think with fantasy, it's fun to be able to actually visualize this other world and just be
mhm.
like, I see it, I understand. And it's just, I think they're fun.
So as you say, you've been living with this for 10 years. So you had the concept of the land and this whole world that you've created and the characters. And then it came down to the cover at some point. How do you come up with that? Covers are I mean, this is very personal. This is something that you've been living with. And if you're not the artist, how do you find the right image that captures, your
So the cover is actually an interesting story. That is a cover idea I'd had in mind for years, probably since I started physically handwriting it. And I was very lucky. A childhood friend of mine who is an incredible artist and currently in grad school, I kind of put out like a Facebook post like, "Hey, I'm looking for like a cover artist if anyone's interested." And then she gave me this gorgeous cover and she did it in like phenomenal. But for me it was just always Keegan, who is the face of the cover. I'm like, she is the main character. And just this was just the idea I had, and my artist just rendered it perfectly. And I guess that's the end of the story on the cover. Like, just for me, it was just I knew what
so
I
you got
wanted.
lucky first off. Yeah.
I did have a lucky first off. I knew what I wanted and I was able to get it. And
Mhm.
it's really funny. I go to like fairs and stuff, and people are just so taken aback by the cover. They're just like, I'm just drawn to it. Like, I can't walk away and not pick it up because they just said it's just gorgeous. So many people just love it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it is a captivating image, and I'll just say it really struck me because it is different as you're scrolling through the book lists on Amazon. Um, there's a it, I'll say there's always popular style, right? With there's popular fashion with their hairstyles or whatever it is. And there's certainly popular book styles. And but this one doesn't really it stands out in the fact that you didn't just follow someone else's model.
Yeah, and I mean, I like to believe that because it's someone's face, there's a little bit of a human aspect of you feel like someone is looking at you and
Mhm.
like drawing you in. They're like, I have a story to tell. Come listen to me.
Right, right. And what did your publisher think? Because often they have opinions.
He didn't fight me on it at all. He was like, yeah, sure, go for it. I had the cover. It was free for him, and he was just like, sure. But again,
Alright.
I think it worked out for the best. I had a great artist, and I think she took the idea I had and really enhanced it from what I originally had. Which, I mean, it was something similar to this, but she did a phenomenal job. She really just made it captivating.
Wonderful. And so let's talk a little bit about the story. This is something that you've been living with for a long time. And many authors say the first thing is the first line. That's the hardest thing is just to break that. But you've been working on this for a long time, so I say that probably wasn't so hard. But we walk right into kind of the aftermath of battle and open us. Well, set the stage for us. Tell us
As
about this.
yeah,
Draw us in.
so the opening stage is literally chaos. You have the ruling family who have been woken up in the middle of the night to an explosion in the middle of their home. So they get there, and in the middle of the explosion is just this girl, and she's totally fine. It's just like, you're here. We have no idea who you are. You're not wearing clothes we recognize. And they're just like, what is happening? So that is, again, it's literally chaos. Nobody knows what's going on. The girl who is Keegan wakes up and she's like, I extra have no idea what's going on. And so it then becomes a battle of we have to figure out what's going on. And nobody has answers, which isn't good.
Mm. Yeah, you have a nice style too that really allows us to visualize. So, and again, going back to your map, I love the Tolkien feature of it. One of the things was that I love the Tolkien books, and when Lord of the Rings came out as a movie, I went to go see it because he wrote so well. I had this image in my head of what everything looked like, all the characters, all the land, all that stuff. And uh, now it turns out they did a pretty good job. But when I read your book, I see the same thing. Is there's an image that gets painted. You start seeing the smoke in the room and the clothing that she's wearing. And tell us about your visualization and how you're able to write like this.
I don't have an answer. It's just it's just how I write. For me,
Yeah.
um, description is important, especially features of a person,
Mm,
because for me, once I get an image of a character in my head and it's very instantaneous, and then if something tries to contradict that later, I get very upset. Like I have a friend who is also a writer, and she has these two characters, and I'm constantly flip flopping their physical descriptions because just that's just how I imagine that character, even though I know it's wrong. So I tend to try and give really good description because to have that kind of just idiosyncrasy of I know that's not what the character looks like, but this is how I imagine it is really weird.
mhm,
So I like to try and give good descriptions of characters so that everybody's on the same page and you're not going back, you're not coming 100 page later like, wait, I thought that character had black hair. I didn't realize they were blonde because all that can play into certain things. And I think it's who I am. I'm also colorblind, so for me, physical descriptions of things are important because I can't
mm,
rely on color. So it's just, I
mhm.
think it's part of who I am. I really don't have a super great answer for you.
I love it. I love that. And I was just wondering too, obviously, your education is as a marine biologist, um, not formal writing school, but I would imagine that in your work, there's a lot of writing that you need to do, that you need to convey information. So is that how does that integrate in?
Scientific writing and fictional writing are very different things. They really don't translate at all, to be honest.
Mhm,
Scientific writing is more about the facts, whereas fictional writing is free reign of everything for the most part.
mm, mhm, yeah,
And it's you know, there I'm sure there are some translations to it, but from what I've found, they're not really similar at all. It's like
yeah,
asking someone to write a textbook versus trying to write a romance. You're not going to get a
yeah,
romance in a textbook, and you're not going to get heavy facts in a romance book.
right, yeah, and you mentioned some of your influences as a writer.
Yeah. So Christopher Polini was definitely my biggest influence. Loved his books growing up. Was really just inspired by him as a human being. Harry Potter was also, a huge thing, and just fantasy in general.
Mhm,
But outside of that, I wouldn't say there were super many influences. A lot of people who read my book would like to say that, oh yeah, you were totally influenced by Game of Thrones, which it's super ironic because I had never even heard of Game of Thrones until I'd finished the
mhm,
first draft. And I hadn't even finished the books or watched the TV series until
mhm,
3 years after writing the first draft. But it is in the same vein. And so I think, again, it's just that high fantasy, those are just the genre itself is kind of the inspiration.
yeah. Well, and it's interesting 'cause, you mentioned that science fiction is not your style, not something that you, get into, but, science fiction in many cases has been, a way to talk about social issues or wider scale issues, whereas fantasy, hasn't always been used that way. So, what do you think about, your writing?
I think my writing is mostly escapism.
Mhm,
It's a way for people to truly take a step back from life and just enjoy something for a moment. I mean, it's really what it was for me, even as bedtime stories. It was escapism. Like the main premise is what happens when you take someone from our world and throw them into one filled with magic. It's the entire story itself is escapism in a sense.
yeah, that's, I always found that the busier I got, the more I like to read at night, especially as you get to the end of the day and I don't want to read necessarily nonfiction books at that point. It is an opportunity to go out of the world that I've spent the day in and to jump into something completely different and something that unlocks my imagination. So, what are some of the things in your book that you think are maybe unique or special to you in and the influence that you would like to have on people?
So of course the world itself is unique. I also made up a language. There are also I made up several races. You have the Alvor, which are basically your elves, but they're not elves. You've got the Torpeki, which are giant dwarves slash trolls that are just brilliant. And then you have your Buluo, which are your more or less Native American tribes people. And just I think my book is unique in the fact that it's coming from someone who is 18. And this is my form of escape. So you really, really get that sense of escapism with it.
Hmm.
But also just the fact that I feel like when you read this book, you could probably tell, like, this is my heart and soul. Like, this is, if
Yeah.
I could go to my world, I would. So,
That's great. I love it. One of the things that happened with, and just sticking with Tolkien, but was that Dungeons and Dragons emerged as a game because people wanted to enter the world. They wanted to participate in it. And so they created Dungeons and Dragons so we could enter into this world in a different way. And what kind of vision do you have for the book, and maybe for obviously you're writing more uh, sequels, expansions? What's your vision?
so as far as books go, this is a series. It is the first of three. The second is currently in editing. The third is like 30 pages deep. I've been I've been struggling with writing, just trying to find the time between
Hmm.
other hobbies and things like that.
Sure.
Um, but I would be over the moon if this was somehow made into like a TV show or a movie.
Hmm.
Of course, every author's dream.
Yeah, and it's funny because there are more opportunities today with all of the different channels that are out there, right? So we see all the Amazon originals that are coming out, and obviously Amazon isn't producing those; they're buying them from production companies. But production companies need stories, and I know that I've watched some limited series where they 6 episodes or something. And could you see your stories translated into something like that?
I wouldn't go with limited stories. I would definitely go with like a full length series just because there's a
Mhm.
lot in my book and
Yeah.
what's to come. And I do have in mind a spin-off series for it already. So there's a
Okay.
lot that can be done. And I would
Yeah.
not recommend limited series, but you know what? If that's what someone wants to do, I'm not gonna stop them at this rate.
So we put it right here. When we get to the end, forget. We won't wait till the end. How do people get a hold of you? If there is somebody that is interested in turning in uh, getting rights to this and contacting you, how are people going to contact you? I don't want to wait till the end.
Yeah, so I
We'll do
mean,
it again, but go ahead.
no, so you can reach out to me on Instagram. My handle is by_HC Kilgour, or you can just shoot me an email. And it is HC Kilgour. Hold on, let me double check. I'm notoriously bad at remembering things. Yeah, by hckilgour@gmail.com.
There you go.
I keep things pretty standard. But yeah, if you
Mhm.
can even just go on the Instagram, there's the email button there. Um, yeah, I'm fairly easy to reach,
Yeah.
realistically speaking.
Or get a hold of, obviously we've got you've got contact information, you got your publisher information right there in the cover of the book. So I just want to tell people, buy the book. It's in the carousel. Click on the book. You can take a look on the inside. You can start reading it. You'll get captivated right away, and then you'll just hit the buy now. Put it on your Kindle. Buy the paperback. Buy the hardback book or the physical book, whatever works for you. And one of the great things about Amazon is that books make great gifts, and you can add it to cart, add several to cart, and then put a friend's address in there. With all the things that are going on in the world, um, it's nice to be able to escape. And so send somebody a book. So Haley, um, I, I I'm all in favor. I'm hoping someone contacts you and says, "This is we need to." We need to option this.
I mean, I'm
Um,
in favor too.
all right. So, who are your pick for actors?
Oh, I have a list for
I'm
this.
jumping
I
way
have a
ahead.
list. Okay.
I was thinking you might.
Okay, so for Colt, I would love either of the Spouse brothers to play him. I think they'd be fun. Um, so for Caius, I would love Leonardo DiCaprio. After watching him into Django Unchained, I think he'd be perfect for
Hmm.
the part.
Hmm.
And let's
I can see
see,
that. Yeah.
Thaddeus, I think would be played phenomenally by Harrison Ford or Brendan Fraser.
Okay.
Uh, again, I'm
So
gonna all
I
in
see
here.
that. I see this. There's a swing there. Um, but Brendan
Yeah, all
Fraser
the hot
just
men from
brings
the '90s. Like, I want them.
he
But
brings a great comic punch into his style as well. So.
yeah, and then I would love Keegan to be played by me. She was legitimately modeled after me. Like, she is
Hmm.
as close to myself as you can get in a character without actually being me. And the only difference
Okay.
is me and her is that she is way more outspoken than I am, which most people who know me are just like, "You're not outspoken. I don't know what you're talking about." But
That's great.
yeah.
That's great. So, you didn't by chance just take the opportunity to, like I'm thinking about the ventriloquists who let their puppets say things that they wouldn't necessarily say themselves. Did you take that
Again,
opportunity?
a little bit, not really, because I don't really have a filter, so I will just say what I mean, and I mean what I say for the most part.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
she's more inclined to act out on certain things that I'm not. She's definitely more headstrong. Um, so we both definitely have a stubborn streak, but hers is a lot more. And she's definitely more athletic than I am. I am very uncoordinated.
This is the beauty of writing in fantasy, right? Is that you're not constrained by the laws of physics that you and I have to live with and endure every day. You're able to
Exactly, and it's just like you can say,
transcend.
this is what I wish I was," which is kind of what I did with Keegan, except I didn't make her my ideal self. I just made her a more everything of myself, so more stubborn, more athletic, so on and so forth.
Mhm. So, as the story unfolds, we'll learn more about the world that's created, the different races that you have. Um, Give us a little peek into the future. What are you writing in the second and third books?
So I really I can't say without
You
spoiling the first one, which kind of sucks,
okay? There we go.
but
Well,
I mean,
well.
I can give you a little bit of a rundown. Basically, where the first one ends, it's going
Mhm.
exactly where you think. And then at the end, it's gonna take another sharp left turn, and you're gonna be left like, "Oh, what?" So, yeah, I'm gonna pull one of those.
Perfect. Perfect. Good, 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 good. I just want to give everyone a chance to. I'm going to put this. I'll put the image back up because uh, uh, I just want everyone to know we've got the book here in the carousel. You can go ahead and click on it, take a look on the inside, and when you think, Haley, about the book, there's got to be a scene or a part in there that is particularly something that you like to emphasize or has deeper emotional appeal to you? What do you think that might be?
So, 2 come to mind, and they're on opposite ends of the spectrum. So, the first one is a perspective of Jared's, and I won't say exactly what's happening, but you'll understand he's dealing with a lot of turmoil. And I don't remember exactly what made me write it in the style I did, but
Mm.
it felt right. And even when I go back and read it, I read it and it's just like getting punched in the heart sometimes. You're just like, I understand exactly what he's going through. And then the other one is with Keegan. And she is just being herself and she just has to make a sexual innuendo, which is exactly what I would do. And yeah, more or less. And then there is a third one where Keegan
Mhm.
literally, through default of weird circumstances, manages to insult me as the author. So,
Oh my word. Okay. So I love it. So that just kind of brings a whole different perspective when a character is communicating with the author. It just
I
seems
mean, the
very
sad
it's a very
thing,
surreal world.
the sad thing was it wasn't even on purpose. I was literally writing the scene and I was just exhausted from something. I can't even remember what. And it just happened. I'm like, she just if you really think into that sentence, she just insulted me. It wasn't intended at me, but she did it anyway. So it was just one of those things when you went back and looked at it for me, especially because I just sit there and laugh anytime I read it, just because I was so tired at the time of writing it, and
Mhm.
the way my brain just clicked things together. I'm like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
I love it. This is one of the I'll say it's kind of one of the weaknesses of books is there's no behind the scenes. So when we get movies, we can watch the how it was made and the behind the scenes and the bloopers and the things like that. We don't really get that opportunity in a book.
You know,
The chapters that aren't included and so
see,
forth.
you're right, which is why in the second book, there were a bunch of things I needed to take out because they weren't needed in the book, and I'm like, I love them too much. So they're my bonus material. Is literally all the things I had to cut, but I loved a lot. So you get to
Yeah.
see a lot of really just interesting situations that could have
Mhm.
been glossed over.
Well, that's yeah, it's interesting because we love that stuff as consumers of books and movies. We like to know kind of what happened and the director's cut, if you will, right? We want to see those extra bits, the things that they thought, it's just going to make this book too long, so we'll take this chapter out. What do you wish that you had in there? Or what do you think people would just I'll say the geeks of us out there would love to see?
I think for the first book, there's honestly I left too much in, to be honest. With the
Mm,
second book, there were a lot of weird random side arcs that I tried to do that just didn't pan out. And
mhm,
that's where a lot of the bonus material comes from is just the little bits of the side arc that are actually entertaining and worked. They go there, and everything else got cut from the main story, kind of thing. So they're kind of fun. With the first book, realistically, any kind of like director's cut would just be me sarcastically commenting on things as I write. That would be about it, which, I mean, realistically, just talk to me in real life and you'll be able to do it on your own.
right. I love it. Yeah, that's, um it is interesting. So the first book is all of the extras are included, most of it. In the second book, you've, kind of,
I got better
trimmed
at
it down a
writing.
bit.
I got better at trimming. I knew what needed to stay, what needed to go.
Mhm. Yeah. And when can people, maybe think to start looking for the new book?
That's a question I
And do you have a
hate.
t and do you have a title? Do you have a title?
I do have a title. I haven't revealed it yet. I'm
Okay,
waiting
so I won't force you.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a big reveal for it eventually.
Mhm,
Once I know more about dates from the publisher. I was hoping early this year. I'm
mhm,
thinking now closer to mid-year slash very realistically, it could be end of year. If it
okay,
goes into 2023, I'm gonna be upset, but that might just be life. So
yeah,
hopefully, I say hopefully sometime this year, we're looking at
mhm,
book 2.
okay. And then, what about promotion? So, a lot of people think that when you're a writer and you get a publisher, that's kind of it. You write the book, you send it off, they publish it, it gets sent out, and then you're a famous author. Let's talk about what happened when your book first published and where you're at in that promotion journey.
Yeah, so I published in May 2020, which was about like 4, 5 weeks into the original COVID shutdown.
Mhm,
I didn't see a lot of oomph. I was a brand new writer. I was a no name. I was with a small publisher. And then what really sucked was that I couldn't go to any book fairs or conventions or signings or anything like that, which would have put my book in front of people.
mhm,
Thankfully, within the past 6 months, I've been able to do that. And I've had relatively good success as an
mhm,
unknown author doing them. And a lot of people have shown interest in the book, but during those times I couldn't go out, I've been very active on Instagram. I still am.
mhm.
Um, and so,
And share that let's share your handle again so
yeah.
people can,
So Instagram
find you
handle
on
is,
Instagram.
is by underscore HC Kilgour. And the thing for me is that as I was trying to get into this, yeah, I'm promoting myself. But I made a lot of other friends who were just readers. I made other friends that were writers, and for me, it kind of became a thing of I enjoy reading. So my page is I do a lot of reviews. I do a lot of just other book stuff. Occasionally, stuff for myself is thrown in. But the promotion is still out there. I don't feel comfortable doing promotion for myself every day, every week. But
Mhm,
every at least once a month, I'm doing something. I'm making a post. I'm reaching out to other readers. Hey, do you want to read my book? Leave a review. Or I'm recommending it, or so on and so forth. Or I'm doing podcasts like this. And so
mhm,
you don't have to just push your book. And the greatest way I think for you to push your own book is to push other people's books because it kind of becomes this I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine kind of thing.
mhm,
And you then build these relationships with these authors where you can come back and say, hey, I'm doing a cover reveal. Will you help me with it? Or, hey, I'm stuck on this writing. Can you give me some suggestion? Things like that. And you build these friendships and these networks, and they just
mhm.
continue to grow. And having that network as an author is astronomically important, which I didn't have when I started. And I wish I did because it would have made everything so much easier. Um, but I don't regret the journey or the process. But if any authors are out there and you're looking at publishing, start being a part of any book community, whether it be on Reddit, Instagram, Twitter. Start becoming a part of that community now, because when it does come time to publish and release, everything gets infinitely easier.
Yeah, I've heard that as great advice for folks. And as you're writing, and it doesn't necessarily mean that if you're a fantasy writer, you need to hang out with just fantasy writers. That just a writing community is a great place to start.
Well, of course. And I mean, no fantasy is purely fantasy. You're probably going to have some kind of romance in there. You probably want to hang out with some romance
Right.
writers. The mystery people, they can give you some great ideas for how to do plot twists and cliffhangers and things like that. And, things
Hmm.
overlap. Just because it's not the same genre doesn't mean you can't bounce ideas off each other.
And you've got some plot twists coming up in book two sometime
Oh, I've
this
got
year.
loads of plot twists, man. Plot twist galore. My thing.
That's the modern style, I really love because it's no longer as it's the butler did it or very predictable. Um, I love the fact that we get really it's just very immersive in the fact that things go very different than you expect. The
Oh yeah, no,
characters are not who
absolutely.
you think they are.
You're absolutely right. I will say though, as a writer, plot twists rarely catch me anymore because I'm like, I see exactly the way the author is leading up to this. I know it's coming.
Mm, mhm.
So I get extra excited when something catches me off guard. I'm like, ooh, I didn't see that. You did extra well. Okay, bonus points. But that's just me.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Let's see. There were some other aspects of this as we were, talking about the community, and you've been involved in. You weren't involved in a community, but now you've been really building your own community, and helping, encouraging, and supporting other writers. Um, and so you've done this through Instagram. What other ways have you been building the community?
Again, I'm mostly on Instagram. I like photography, so it's
Hmm.
for me, Instagram is easiest because it's pretty photo based.
Yes.
But again, just the other thing I try to do on Instagram is about once a month, I like to run what I call a writer's night. And
Hmm.
I'll pick a topic, say, be it world building, romance, finding editors, so on and so forth. And I'll kind of talk, I'll give a spiel for about 5, 10 minutes, and then I'll open up to questions, and this is for any writer or reader or anyone who just has questions about the process to ask. And, I try to be honest and helpful in any way that I can. And so that's kind of my little community of, I rarely get people on, but the people who do come on at least have
Yeah.
questions and I'm able to answer them or I'm able to at least point them in the right direction.
Hmm. And have you thought about having your own video or podcast separate
Oh,
from?
of course I have, but I am way overwhelmed with other things that I don't think I could do it
Mhm.
feasibly in a way that would do it justice. Um, so as much as I would like to, it's also not my thing. I'm really bad with technology, so like trying to create reels on Instagram is about as technologically advanced as I am, which
Mhm.
is yeah. I'm
I
I'm just
gotcha.
really bad with technology and editing and just I don't trust myself.
my my wife has often said that she puts the no in techno, although she's been getting a lot better.
Yeah, that's me. I'm a millennial who just can't use technology. I'm
Mhm.
terrible.
Well, it's an interesting thing because there is this kind of assumption from some generations looking back to the millennials and saying, "Well, they grew up with this stuff; they must know it." But that's not necessarily so.
You're right, and that's the thing, like, my boss at work is in his 70s, like, "Oh, you'll figure it out." I'm sitting there, I'm like, "This is a completely foreign machine to me. The only way I'm gonna be able to do this is because I'm better at Googling than you." Like, that's literally what it comes down to, and it's just like, I know less than you, but I will figure it out because I know how to use the Google and be very specific. And it's literally all millennials are. If we don't know something, we know how to Google. We know how to use to make it
Oh,
work.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love the fact that so much information is available. I was one of those encyclopedia geeks as a little kid, always thumbing through and looking at all the stuff and reading about things. And then when the internet came along and Google, the world as an encyclopedia was there.
And
So,
yeah, no, it's great. There's so much information at our fingertips.
yeah.
So
If there's something if there's a question, I mean, I've got the little search bar right on my phone, and I just hit it, and then it answers the question, "Who wrote this book?" or "Who filmed that movie?" or "What was this thing about? What's the history of that?" Instantly, I've got it in my and it fills my curiosity.
it does. I will admit mostly use Google to prove my boyfriend wrong, which is wildly entertaining for me because I'm just sitting here. I'm like, I'm not always the brightest about certain things, but when I know
Mm.
something, the 9 times out of 10, I know what I'm talking about. So, I enjoy proving people wrong. Like, it's also half the reason I wrote a book 'cause I feel like someone somewhere along the line said, you won't be able to do it." I'm like, "Watch me."
Oh, yeah, yeah, I love it, I love it, and, Uh, yeah, there's so many things. I was just looking at this mug that says, "I don't need Google. My father knows everything." That's what my son gave me for Christmas.
My
So,
I could use one of those mugs. My dad does know 90% of stuff in certain regards. Like, if my boyfriend can't figure it out, I go straight to my dad. If not, I usually sometimes
yep.
go to my dad first, but,
All
he
right,
knows
I
a
have
lot.
to.
He knows more than he belies.
I should probably put that into. I should probably put one of these in the carousel sometime so that people can order that. Um, so book tours. You're kind of back. I mean, summer's coming. Is that the season? What's the season for you to get out and meet people again because things are opening up. I'm glad to see that
Yeah.
conventions and shows are back up. And where might we find you coming up?
Well, conventions go year round. It depends on what part of the world you're in.
Hmm.
Do know that fellow Rock Hill writer David Baylog and I are trying to do some stuff up in the Cleveland and Indianapolis area in April.
Hmm.
In July, we would love to go back to Comic Palooza. We did that last year and we fell in love with it. So we're really hoping to go back to that.
Hmm.
In 2023, I haven't been able to find the application yet, but I would love to go to Otaku Fest, which is in Miami, which is where I live. The
Yeah.
Miami Book Fair in November, we would love to go back to. And I personally will be last weekend, not this weekend, and then the next 5 weekends after this will be at the Florida Renaissance Fair in Deerfield Beach. So if
Okay.
you live in Florida, come to the Renaissance Fair. I'll be there. Just go to the Keys Meads booth. I'll serve you some alcohol, and we'll talk about books. It's great.
All right. So, again, we talked about the right in the very opening, describe what Keegan is wearing. You do you do any cosplay? Do you show up in character? Would people show up in character for uh, getting your book, getting their copy of your book signed?
So Keegan is fairly easy to cosplay. If you want to show up as OG Keegan, as when she first shows up, jeans, Converse, and a black T-shirt. That's it. That's all you need. Later on in the book, she starts wearing this green dress with tan sleeves. I have that. Very something very close to that, and she's still wearing Converse. She's still wearing jeans underneath the dress. She's really easy to cosplay. So I do take some liberties with her character. I might occasionally wear black leggings instead of jeans,
Mhm.
and just like a medievalish shirt. But
Yeah.
Keegan's simple. She's just give me pants, give me a shirt, we're good to go. As long as I can just move. That's her
Well, this
thing.
is beautiful. Some of the cosplay, it's very expensive and time consuming.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Like I know someone who physically makes her own costumes. I just look at her, I'm like, these are incredible, but like, oh my god, I could never do it myself. Like, I don't know how you do it.
Yeah, hand sewing gloves. I'm just
Yeah.
thinking, oh my
Like
gosh,
the
I
people
don't have
who
the patience. I would not have the patience.
no, but like the people who do them, props, absolute props. But if you want to
Hmm.
cosplay someone easy, go with Keegan Digor. Again, jeans, Converse, t-shirt. You're good to go.
There you go. That is perfect. So, well, as we just wind this down, Haley, it's been a lot of fun talking with
Yeah,
you,
it's been great. I've
and
had a
and
blast.
we will definitely do this again when the next edition comes out, when the
Yay.
book two is ready, and because people will want to follow up. You have an engaging story, you have a great style of writing, and again, the map just gets me. I'm just
It gets a
captivated.
lot of people. It really does. It's funny how many people are like, oh yeah, look into the book to read the back. You can see they're not sure, and then they open that cover and they see the map and they're just like, give me a copy right now. And I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, however you arrived at that, well done. It's just fabulous.
Thank you.
So again, how can people get a hold of you? So if they want to maybe have you come and present or share or um, teach them how to cosplay, or how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah. So Instagram again, and the handle is by_HC Kilgour is your best bet. You can DM me there. It also has my email, and my email is byhckilgour@gmail.com. I do have a website. It is hckilgour.com. Not that I ever use it, but you can still get a hold of me from there. There is
There
also a
you go.
Facebook page. Look for HC Kilgour. If you haven't noticed, there's a running theme. I'm pretty easy to find, and I love working with people and talking to people. So please don't be shy. Please reach out to me if you've got a burning question or you want me to do an event. I will drive anywhere within 100 miles. And if I can make a weekend out of it, I will fly anywhere in the world.
All right. All right. Well, thanks for joining me today here on Amazon Live and talking about the book, characters, your process, and all of that stuff. I'll send you to the green room for a moment. Hang out. We'll be right back with you there. All right. So HC Kilgour, Haley. Find her on Instagram and get the book. It's highlighted in the carousel. Click on it. You can add it to your library right now. Uh, get a physical copy. Send it to somebody. Again, the world's always been in need of escape. So it is right here for you. And with that, I'm going to sign off, everybody. I'm just going to say, have a fabulous day.